That the government has withdrawn a security detail for some of the IEBC commissioners as part of an attempt to intimidate them. He spoke at the Okoa Kenya offices, where he also called for financial support for his campaign for the next round of elections scheduled for October the 17th.
A number of the commissioners are under serious threat by the government. Just must be from the authorities. Their securities have been withdrawn. Some of them are receiving very threatening mails to their lives. So we are in actually a very, very dangerous situation at the moment in this country. But we just want to urge Jubilee to do the right thing. If our Uhuru Kenyatta, looking at what has transpired now, I would just resign and let this thing go. But trying to impose himself against the will of the people is not right. Now basically trying to buy individuals here and there, forcing them to give him support. Everything is now clear, has been put bare that he did not win, he lost his elections. And he's trying to force the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya will not be forced. We want the Jubilee government to do what is honorable, civilized, resign, and let the Kenyans move on.
For more details, let's now link up with our reporter Patrick Amimos, joining us from our city centre studios. Patrick, the blame game from the political class continues on the commission. What else came out of that particular briefing?
This particular press by the NASA principals basically was just to do to at least rally their supporters out there to fundraise for the for the fresh presidential campaigns that have been scheduled to be held on the October 17th. Basically, this time around, the presidential campaigns is a money meant it requires a lot of funds, financial support or muscle to carry out the presidential campaign, and we saw it was estimated that the August 8th election, at least IEBC had set aside for presidential candidates to spend a minimum of 5 billion shillings as a ceiling for that particular campaign. So this time around, that the Supreme Court, after it nullified and invalidated President Uhuru's re-election, then it means NASA has to go back to the square board and see how they'll raise campaign funds to cut across the country. So basically, it was to appeal to their supporters to come out and fund the campaigns. And we also seen the members of parliament who were elected on that NASA ticket to come also out and support their presidential candidate, given that the Supreme Court has now given room for another fresh election to be conducted in just less than 38 days away. Apart from that, the issue that was raised was to do with the security of IEBC commissioners. Now the NASA principal claims that some commissioners have been, their security has been withdrawn as a way to, as one strategy to intimidate them, and they suspect it's the security agencies or the government that is trying to intimidate commissioners, because we saw just a day ago when a letter leaked from IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati trying to ask some 12 points to the CEO Ezra Chiloba on some of the matters that happened with regard to the August 8th polls, where the IEBC chairman's password was used to access the servers and alter Forms 34As and Form 34Bs, and he was so much miffed up as a returning officer, the national returning officer for the presidential election. He felt that these particular changes, his account was used without his authority and altered about forms belonging to about 9,800 polling stations. The other concern raised by Chebukati was to do what happened to the satellite phones that he had promised Kenyans that they'll be used to relay results in case of lack of network. So there are some those are some of the 12 issues that Chebukati wanted, and in fact he came up with a fresh team of 7 to oversee the fresh election. And that list of 7 has also raised controversy, and we've seen the commission split. At least 3 commissioners are supporting Chebukati's action because he took it as an individual person, because maybe given that he was a bereaved, a most affected party, given that his account was used to change some of those results results. But we've seen at least some other 4 commissioners disagree with Chebukati's actions, saying that they were not consulted. But it's something interesting in regarding Commissioner Paul Kurgat, who at one point appeared to have supported Chebukati's later suspending these officials from the Secretariat. And one point again later in the night, we saw him again coming, trying to jump the other side. So it's a game of musical chairs that is happening at IEBC. We know commissioners were supposed to meet today to deliberate on that idea to suspend members of the Secretariat and the list of 7 fresh teams that will be overseeing the polls. And prior to that, we saw also yesterday a union a union claiming to represent workers working for independent commissions go to the labor court and ask seeking a stop of the suspension and or otherwise interdiction of members of the Secretariat that belong to the IEBC, including Ezra Chiloba and some of those directors like the ICT Director James Mhatu had been targeted. But the Labour Relations Court set that petition hearing for the September 20th, when it will come to see whether that particular union has a case and maybe whether these individuals are members of that particular union. So it's a matter that is really caused a crisis and maybe also put to question whether the August 17th election October 17th election will be held or not, because with the commissioners split, I don't know whether they'll be working at reading from the same script or differently, because we saw yesterday they had invited Jubilee to come on board and discuss with them, but Jubilee said they'll not meet IEBC without their counterparts from NASA. So it's something that also talking to the NASA principal, Raila, on whether the NASA team will be meeting IEBC, he says that the current crisis emanating between the differences between the IEBC commissioners does not provide a conducive environment for the Jubilee and NASA to meet them at this particular time until and unless the matters are resolved among the commissioners themselves. And also, he's raised an idea about the leveling of the playing field ahead of that August election. Akisa?
Senior political reporter. Patrick Amimo there, senior political reporter, joining us from our City Centre studios with just the highlights of some of the things that came out of that press briefing by NASA principals led by Raila Odinga, the Okoa Kenya offices earlier on in the day. Now, Majority Leader Aiden Duale has challenged